The hardest time. Wi-Fi. Always trash.
Okay, so that's not you thinking of that. Okay.
City pride is better. I think I'm on Very cute.
Just YouTube. Were you?
John has.
This pen keeps throwing me off. Thinking of that.
I may have touched on this from time to time, but I haven't.
When did you do this?
Yesterday.
Did you? Yeah. You'd have to move to San Diego.
At this time, I'd like to call the May 19th, 2022 regular meeting of the Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh to order. It's 5 p.m. Please rise and join me with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Carlin, will you please conduct a roll call?
Mayor Rosenquist.
Here.
Counselor Canales.
Here.
Counselor Kelly.
Here.
Counselor Gibbs.
Here.
Counselor Talon.
Here.
Counselor Bob. Here. Counselor Moore.
Here.
All councilors have received a copy of the minutes of the May 2nd, 2022 regular meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll now entertain a motion of the minutes as presented. Motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Gibbs. Any changes, alterations, or deletions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. I'll now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the council on any topic. Please come to the podium to be acknowledged. When called upon, we ask that you please state your legal name and address for the record. And in accordance with the organizational rules of order, all speakers will be given 5 minutes to address the council.
Good evening. I'm Tim Palkovic. I live at 21 Champlain Street. I'm concerned about parking. Aren't we all? So I wish the city would reconsider the establishment of parking meters until any construction is finished downtown. The town is going to be torn up when we have the Market Street installed, and maybe torn up if there's the prime building built. That will create confusion and chaos for the city. The city has elected parking to solve some of the problems. Some of it is parking spaces, but there will be enough confusion and lack of spaces if there's construction when there are meters. So if you would delay the meters and not cement them in the ground until you absolutely have to, I would think it would benefit everyone in the city. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else who'd like to share their concerns with the council on any topic?
Some more. A couple things I wanted to address. One was the park maintenance and upgrades. I was just wondering if it's really necessary to borrow $1.5 million. You're going to use, you said, 500,000 of the ARPA money. So why can't we just, since this is going to go over a course of 2 or 3 years, why can't you just not borrow, but excuse me, use ARPA money next year and the year after, whatever, instead of borrowing any of the money? The other thing for the parks, I just wanted to mention that when the livable community was formed, they suggested, Ira Barbell was the one that had suggested that we move the Hamilton Street Park to J Street. And I got a packet here, and I know we don't have time to go over that now, but I know some of the counselors have it, the newer ones probably don't. But he did a really good write-up on moving the park down there and what it could be and how you can fund it. It talks about, excuse me, tickle. There's also the parkland alienation. We could get rid of the Hamilton Street Park. I know some people say we don't, but you can. There's a mechanism for that. And if any of you have read it, you would see that. As long as you're replacing it, I think you can get rid of the crappy one that's sitting there now. But anyway, I'd like to probably have the newer people get a copy of this and see what it's all about. So if I can get some copies made, I'll pass it on. Or if some of the counselors that have one want to share it with the others, you can do that too. As far as I got 107, 108. I was just wondering if the touring route funding, we're voting to do these things based on having this money. Have we applied for that already? Is it like hard and fast that we're gonna get this money reimbursed? Because I know you have to apply for it. Have we applied for it? Is this written in stone that we will get the money back? Or are we just guessing that we might get the money back based on whatever they cover or not cover? I know you're gonna discuss that when we get to it, but I'd like to know what you have to say about that. 7106 Latinville property, 15 Couch. I know tonight you're gonna vote to take it off the tax rolls, but I don't think that should be the end of it. I think these landlords need to take some responsibility. The guy got insurance money and he spent it somewhere else, and now the city's gonna be stuck with it. I don't think we should buy it for $1. I think we should foreclose on the property. And I think everybody should know that this person did that, and maybe some of the others will be discouraged from dumping stuff like that on us also. So I see there's language in here. I don't know if this should be taken out or how this affects the resolution. But you know, it says in here, it's not in the best interest to do the tax foreclosure. But let's see, and then there's also has determined the parcel has been withdrawn from foreclosure for 2022. So does that mean that if you vote on this resolution tonight, does that mean you can't foreclose on it for the rest of 2022? Like, should this language be taken out, or should something different be done? I don't think this should be the end of it, and I hope it's not gonna be the end of it just because you're not gonna pay a couple $1,000s of taxes on it. I think it's time to get rid of that mess and that person take responsibility. I was wondering if we're gonna repair the crate. And I was disappointed to hear that the farmer's market isn't gonna get taken care of this year. I don't know why that wasn't worked on through the winter so that we would have been able to put that out for bid. Somebody must have dropped the ball. I don't know what happened, but it's pretty disappointing. They had leaks in the roof. It's hot in there in the summer, so I don't know why things didn't get done, but it's disappointing that it didn't. I was wondering why the stage was over at the crate. I thought we used that down at the monument for concerts in the summer, and then I guess they used to use it at the Harborside, but I guess that's not happening this year, the Harborside music. Also, I was wondering, in November of 2021, the mayor had said that we weren't carrying a lot of debt, that we were carrying about 20%. We could go up to 75%. So I was just wondering if we can get a regular report on where we're at with that every month, every couple months, to know if that's rising, where it's at, so we know about how much money we're borrowing. And is that percentage, I don't know the answer to this, so I'm asking, is that percentage meaning it's 20% of the budget that we're borrowing? Is that what that term means? Somebody probably can answer that for me. And also, if the managers, whoever's at these committee meetings could speak at the podium during those meetings, it's hard to hear them when they're talking from sitting over by the wall, so appreciate it. And the last thing was, I know it was mentioned about the flurry bike path and the trees. I can't picture all those trees were infringing on the power lines. Farther down where they're not cut, they're not infringing on the power lines. So I don't know what happened there either, but it doesn't look very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Anyone else?
Julie Bond, I am, as everybody knows, the manager for Market. I mean, Sue just said, touched on what's going on. But the first thing I want to say is I am by no means throwing Matt under the bus. Matt has worked with me extremely close. I mean, he keeps in touch with me about everything. But my concern is, it was 83 degrees this last weekend. 83 degrees and it was 91 in the building. I have pictures where my husband has an infrared thing. 91 degrees in the building. This weekend is supposed to be 87. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like in that building. I lose customers and I lose vendors. I have to let them go home. It's hotter than heck in that building. I just went down there because of all the rain and there's water everywhere in there again. I wasn't able to take pictures, but I'm having to answer to them. I know the work is there to get done. I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can expedite some of it so we can get a better functioning building down there? I really am trying to get things on the go down there. I have so many more activities planned this year. I have bands and music and a kids function down there for water balloons, and things are gonna really improve this year. But that building, if there's any way we could expedite some of it, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, Julie. Anyone else like to speak on to the council on anything?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Boyer, and my family owns and operates Warren Tire Service Center. I'm here to address the potential parking fees that I guess, I spoke to Matt Miller a couple weeks ago. He informed me of a few things, but obviously I don't know everything that's going on with that. So I just want to brief you on our business and what we bring, and not speak on behalf of anybody else in the city, because I can't speak on behalf of those other businesses. We've been in business for 35 years this year. We're a long-standing operation that went from 6 bays to 11 bays in 35 years. We service thousands of customers on a yearly basis. To give you an idea, on a daily basis, Monday through Saturday, we service 80 to 100 cars a day. These people who bring their vehicles to us, 75% of them are waiters and walkers. Most of these customers walk downtown and eat in the restaurants, shop in the various antique shops. With that being said, and I've given you kind of an overview of what we do, by being very brief, I have been told by Matt Miller that the meters have been purchased, but the fee structure has not yet been determined by the folks of the council and the mayor. I'm here to ask you to please consider giving the people and the employees who work downtown parking passes. The fees that I have been told are being considered are in the amount of approximately $325 annually. We have 30 people who work for us. That alone, Warren Tire would cost us alone $10,000 yearly for our employee, and our employees are the heart of downtown. Without them, we would not be able to service 100 cars a day. And those cars all come here and they all, sorry, I'm a little nervous. The past 3 years have been really difficult on all of us, including our employees. I mean, we're an essential business. Our employees worked through the pandemic day in and day out. Never did they go on, they work very hard, and the price of food, the price of gas is an extremely, obviously for everyone, has been a hard hit to add this additional expense to them, although to some people may think, oh, $35 a month or this, that, and the other thing isn't a lot of money. To these people, that is a lot of money to them on a regular basis. So I just like to put that on the table, that for you to consider, highly consider the employees that work Monday through Friday downtown, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I understand that, you know, there are expenses within the city and why you're trying to do certain things. But from a worker standpoint, these people do keep downtown thriving in the capacity that they are. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Anyone else would like to address the council on any topic? Seeing none, we'll now go on to committee reports. Each standing committee is chaired by a counselor. I'll now call upon that chairperson of each committee, starting with city operations, Councilor Bob.
We have a number of resolutions on the agenda tonight that we'll go over, and we're very excited about the 4th of July thing, which we'll be able to announce after tonight's meeting.
Finance and economic development, items 102 through 109 are placed on tonight's agenda for consideration. City infrastructure, Councilor Moore.
Just one short comment, leaks. It looks like our water infrastructure, the new base is finally melted down.
I like how you call them leaks.
So I guess that's gonna be a topic for tonight and going in the future, so we are gonna do what we can to get that fixed as soon as possible.
Thank you. Public safety, Councilor Canales.
We had a very good meeting this past Monday. A few things are up for consideration tonight, 7.96, 7.97. One's an appointment, one is for our consideration as council. We did address what you brought up concerning the chain of command and the current structure.
Yeah, I saw the
very well
live stream,
outlined.
so I'm gonna follow up with some questions by email
No
because I saw the email from the mayor. So
No problem. Besides that, we will be having some things coming down the pipeline in the future regarding RFPs and so on and so forth. But besides that, nothing else to report.
We'll now move on the liaison reports, Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Taylor.
Our meeting is next Tuesday. So I'll have something to report after that.
Thank you. Municipal Lighting Department, Councilor Gibbs.
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Snell, any staff member reports?
Nothing.
There are no special committee reports at this time. I'll now entertain a motion to approve payrolls for various city departments for the weeks ending May 18th, 2022, in the amount of $487,119.35. Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Canales. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes,
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes,
Council Moore?
Yes,
Carried. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the bills audited by the Common Council for the weeks ending May 20th, 2022, in the amount of $967,370,033. Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bob. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
yes,
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
yes,
Council Moore?
yes,
Carried. Before voting on the following resolutions, I will note that the majority of these resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees and department heads. We're now taking action on these items in large part due to the recommendation of those committees. Ms. Carlin, will you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Item 7.96, mayoral appointment.
Motion, Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bob. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
yes,
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
yes,
Council Moore?
yes,
Item 7.97, reappointment of members of the Plan Oversight Committee, Governor's Executive Order 203.
Motion by Councilor Talon, second by Councilor Kelly. Roll call.
well, I just have one question, just the
Oh, I'm
same,
sorry.
the same people are on this that were in the. office
Yes,
before?
minus one person that they could not confirm at the time, so they are looking for a fifth person to add to their committee.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
yes,
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
yes,
Council Moore?
Yes,
Carried.
Item 7.98, approval of road closures for Lake City Arts Festival on August 28th.
Motion by Councilor Bob, second. Councilor Canales, discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
yes,
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
yes,
Council Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.99, approval of 2022 beer gardens for City of Plattsburgh events.
Motion, Councilor Canales, second. Councilor Bob, discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.100, approval of City of Plattsburgh to enter into contractual agreement with musical performers for 4th of July event.
Motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Talon. Discussion.
Just want to say thanks to Courtney for all her work on this and every other event she's putting together for the summer. It's gonna be a good one.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.101, approval to adjust the non-food vendor permit fee.
Motion by Counselor Kelly, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.102, authorizing capital project H5100.88, 2022 parks maintenance and upgrades.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second. Counselor Bob. Discussion.
Yes, this is the 1.5 million expenditure, yes? This is
Correct.
what this one is. I have to agree with Sue Moore, who got up to the podium to talk. I'm looking at lots of expenditures, and now we have one that has to be approved because we have a serious infrastructure break, that has to be addressed. I'm looking at $1 million out of general fund. I'm looking at debt that we're incurring in the millions and millions and millions of dollars. I'm looking at a Margaret Street project. 5.235 million of this is going to be water, sewer bonds, general fund bonding. I agree that I think it should be $500,000 taken out of ARPA this year. And then, looking for grants. Are we engaging Barton and LaJudas in pursuing grants on this
We always
particular
are-
one?
We are always engaging for grants. We are always looking for grant opportunities. That nothing prevents us from coming back to changing this capital project to change the funding source. We can use ARPA, which is why we're initially using ARPA this year for the initial improvements until we figure out what future improvements we're going to make that we want to make for these parks, which are much needed, as we all know. And the idea right now is there is a potential to bond the 1 million of this project. Regarding the comment that we do have to spend some money on infrastructure, that again, it's a separate fund. It's much like saying the library needs to bond for their roof. It's a separate fund, so it does not. That project, and we'll talk about that later, is separated out on how it gets repaid. It's not a general fund expenditure. For something like this, doesn't prevent us from spending ARPA funds in the future. The whole idea, though, like I said, is to get through this year, allocating that $500,000 to allocate from ARPA, and then moving through to actually figure out what type of work and the lifespan of that work that we're going to do, whether or not we want to use that one time infusion of cash, or do we want to borrow against the life of that infrastructure improvement for these parks. Any further discussion?
yeah, I just wanted to comment, hopefully this is gonna be an ongoing thing when we keep our parks up. So I do think it's critical that we do make sure we have solid funding for this stuff and not necessarily bonding more than we need to. But we do need to proceed with this work.
And when we, Matt Miller and I proposed the parks improvement, there were several phases to it. This first one was the $500,000 immediate improvement, the ones that we have been collecting over this last year after we published the April Parks Report, which identified a number of deficiencies in our parks. Following this year, there's just been an ongoing list that's been created that tracks park by park deficiency. That initial $500,000 as per that original memo was to address that list, that immediate need to repair. Second to that is this parks analysis and done by Barton and Judas. And again, when we talk about these projects, anything that we do, we are looking for grant opportunities. Not only just in parks, but infrastructure and all the other fun stuff that we do in the city of Plattsburgh. So it doesn't prevent us by outlining how we would spend money or how we would allocate money to this. It doesn't prevent us from looking for alternate funding sources, just like everything else that we do when we look to spend money on something. We also look to fund it in a particular way. So we're not locked into this. This is what I'm saying. Future phases, 100%, right? Like where this is not just a one and done. If anything, what we've learned over this last year without a rec department is that we need to leverage the resources that we have as recreational opportunities for our community, quality of life initiatives, outdoor recreation, year-round outdoor recreation opportunities in the city of Plattsburgh. And this hopefully gets us as a community into that mindset of investing into our parks and green space on an ongoing basis. So.
Well, I definitely support the parks improvement, but and I support 500,000 coming from the ARPA, but I can't support this the way it's worded with $1 million out of general fund and then bonded and then 500,000 out of ARPA. So I just want to make that clear. I support the parks upgrade, but I don't like the funding and the way it's being done. So just to be clear.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
No,
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.103, authorized consulting agreement with Barton and LaJudas for park improvement project.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion.
so this is paying Barton and LaJudas for their work, their design, what exactly are they doing as part of this?
So there were 4 parks identified as the 4 major parks, or 4 of our central parks: the Oval, Blumet, South Acres, South Platte, and Melissa. Right. So those 5 parks, they are going to be engaging not only with Courtney on piggybacking on the Parks Alive initiatives, events that we're having over the summer, but also doing outreach to impacted community members in those areas or users of that park to essentially figure out what should the park be used for, what's the best use of it, redesigning some of the features of the park as well. At the end of that, that's when we have an actual plan for redesign of these parks, some of these parks, those 5 parks, which we then have used grant money, bonded out of the general fund or ARPA funds to implement that plan.
So the way that this is worded, they're going to be paid out of the funding source from 7.102, correct?
Correct.
So I don't want to sound churlish when I ask this question, so I hope I don't come across that way, but I appreciate their expertise and what they offer. But what are they offering that our managers, who are the experts in what they do?
That our managers are not experts in park design. And we have one person expert in community engagement. But this is really establishing best use practices on parks, what parks are used for, the kind of design and usability of the parks that we have. It's not something that we have in-house. We don't have planning and engineering folks to do this. Yes, Mike.
Barton and LaJudas sent us a 9-page document that describes exactly what they're going to do. It's pretty comprehensive. I'll just go over the high points. They're going to preserve and design our park system to be inclusive and encourage use by people of all ages and abilities. They're going to revitalize existing open space, recreation systems, and park infrastructure. They're going to ensure robust year-round recreational programming and high utilization of parks and recreation facilities. And each one of these items I've read has several bullet points below it to describe how those objectives are going to be achieved. And E is to ensure park systems are integrated, accessible, and meet the needs of each neighborhood and the overall community. So they got quite a task there ahead of them, but I think they're up to the challenge.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
No,
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
No,
Carried.
Item 7.104, establishment of management policies and fees for the city beach parking system.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bob. Discussion.
oh, Jeff, were you talking? Sorry.
yeah, I just had one question. I noticed that there was a shortfall if we didn't charge parking for everyone, a larger shortfall. Is there some reason that we went in the direction where we aren't going to charge the city and town residents parking?
Well, this goes back to the Falcon Seaboard Agreement, the 1992 Falcon Seaboard Agreement, which expires at the end of this year.
So, but this is parking, not admission. right?
This is parking, correct? And based on that agreement, it does say free access to facilities at the beach. You know, we've gone back and forth with the parking for and against charging town and city residents or not. You know, I've been my recommendation to charge city and town residents, but looking at that agreement, would like to preserve the piece of it on this one and just say, look, you know, for the most part, people have been become accustomed to not being charged sitting town residents. So I think once we get through the agreement and the expiration date of the agreement, then I think it'd be fair to say, let's revisit that conversation.
Yeah, because it's not more than the price of going to the movies. Actually, it's less than taking a couple kids to the movies.
You know,
Just saying.
yeah, look, philosophically, I think think people know where I stand philosophically on charging access for a resource like this and asking people to invest in it, right? Like use the facility, invest in the facility. So, you know, again, we've run major deficits at the beach complex for many years now. We can finally see some light at the end of that tunnel, that we can maybe turn the page in the next few years and start generating a surplus for the beach, which again, that money goes back to being reinvested into the beach.
Thanks.
I support I support parking fees for sure. I mean, we've been talking about paid parking in the city for years, but you know, as I said last week, during the finance meeting, I think that a flat fee of $5 that is less than what you pay at the state park would be better. I don't think that the first year of parking, we should be trying to be profitable. I think we should be trying to break even. That's where I stand on that.
Well, I think I sent an update to council on our current pay fee, our current structure. We pay $11 now. We charge $11 now for US vehicles. Again, based on last week's discussion, and it seemed like it was a pretty fair compromise and good discussion that we had regarding the changes of the fee structure for the beach. This is even more simplified than it was last week, which I appreciate, but even if we were trying to break even, we wouldn't charge less than what we're charging now. And we would probably turn around and start charging city and town residents if we wanted to at least break even, but we're not. Again, it's not the recommendation of my office to do that this year.
Mayor, is it safe to assume that all public, everyone in the public is going to be charged for beach access come 2023?
I think that would be a fair assessment, a fair assumption for next beach season.
The last time I saw a report on the beach regarding finances, we lost, I don't know, over $100,000 if I recall correctly on beach operations. So, you know, we're used to paying out of the general fund for beach operations. So I would think that this is not a real hardship this year. We should be able to get through okay. And next year we can look forward to actually paying for the beach through parking revenues.
I would say one difference between this year and last year is, gas is $5 a gallon, inflation 7%. People's homes have just been reassessed. My friends here in the city, my friends outside the city, their property taxes have skyrocketed as a result. I mean, there's so much stress on families this year and trying so hard to recover from COVID economically. And it just seems it's tough up here to get ahead. So.
Any further discussion?
So I'm saying that the daily parking fee is $12 per day. So that's $12 for the 8 hours. So does that mean it would be $1.50 per hour at the machine if they didn't want to stay
It's just
there? For 8 hours?
right now, just as we've done in the past, it's one flat daily fee, period. We're not doing an hourly fee anymore. We've removed that. We're not doing, so we've removed the hourly fee to simplify it, to reflect how we typically have charged for parking, which is a flat daily rate. And then we reduced the seasonal permit from $110 per year to $60 per year.
Well, the reductions are good. I'm definitely in support of that. I wish we would still have the hourly option. But some of these changes are good.
Yeah. Oh, this is, the recommendation here is based on the conversation that we had last week around maybe a half-day fee or just a flat rate, full-day fee, and then an increase to the permit, considering that we are already charging $110 for a season.
That's something we can explore for 2023. We'll have a whole new revenue stream to look at. And, adjusting the prices is certainly within the scope of reality, I think. Something we can do.
But just so everybody is clear, for city of Plattsburgh residents and town of Plattsburgh residents, you won't have to pay to park this year. So that's important for them to know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
No,
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.105, establishment of management policies and fees for the downtown area parking system.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bob, discussion.
Well, I did have some comments here, because I was approached by additional people, like one of the speakers tonight, other employers downtown. This is in my ward, so, no.
Pardon?
I was just saying you're not the only person that spoke about, an employer that spoke downtown. I didn't realize how many people work downtown in some of these places, but there are quite a few. I've also been approached by people who live down there. I don't know the answer, and I know we've been pursuing this parking thing, but I'm just gonna have to say that, to represent, if I properly represent my ward, I'm gonna have to vote no on this, because it is not very popular with my constituents.
I was also contacted by a downtown business owner and expressing similar concerns that they're going to be reimbursing their employees for the parking, and they're trying to recover from COVID, and it's going to be an enormous financial burden for them.
Any further discussion?
I think we need to, discuss the rates again, maybe discuss some different ways to do the permits. Just perhaps there could be like a sliding scale due to income, because a lot of people that live downtown, they only just have enough money for their apartments and just the basic necessities of life. You spoke about it very well, and plus there are some people with disabilities that live downtown, and they may not be physical disabilities that would keep them in a handicapped parking spot, but like other kinds of disabilities that just make things very difficult for them. So I think we need to take all these things into consideration, maybe discuss these rates a bit more and put this off for another meeting.
When are we, Matt, when are we looking to implement this page structure downtown?
We're awaiting delivery of the final 4 kiosks that we ordered. Those are due, I'm told, sometime in June. So at any point thereafter, once we are able to install the kiosks in their permanent locations, we
One moment, I just let me check the calendar here. Look, I don't know how many people this is gonna satisfy. Paid parking is, we can go around and about on this. We've been talking about this for 4 years now. This is not something we've just come up with. Again, we go back to the pricing structure, and the pricing structure, Counselor Gibbs point to break even on something, that this is the structure, this is the pricing based on our assumption of parking that's going to be used. I've had multiple people call me downtown, including downtown business I own a business down here too, by the way, which I'll be paying my employees parking permits happily. But I've had a number of people say, well, my employees are gonna have to move their cars from the 2-hour spots. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, well, this is what we're complaining about. We're complaining about employees downtown parking in the 2-hour spots, taking the space of the consumer that we want those available parking spots for. So there's got to be a balance somewhere in here, right? Like, go back and change the fee structure, but then take a deficit on the structure itself, where the whole point is to not take a deficit on it. Now, this is priced to break even. If anything else, give back to the downtown assessment district, people that pay into that downtown assessment district. We can go back to the table on it. You can pull it, go back and restructure some pricing, but at the end of the day, this is 4 years in the making here, so.
It's 4 years in the making, but we also just purchased 4 more kiosks. So we went from 13 kiosks to 18 or 14 to 18, whatever it was. And the anticipation of hiring a second parking enforcement officer. And I don't think it's fair that the people who work and live downtown should pick up the burden of our overspending. We bought too many kiosks.
Well, to contextualize it, we didn't buy too many kiosks. We bought kiosks because we have 200 plus new parking spaces that we didn't anticipate having. And we were already on track to hire another parking enforcement officer, giving the increased amount of enforcement that person was going to cover based on this page structure. So it wasn't an overspending of adding more kiosks. It was a compensation for adding 200 plus more parking spaces to this to the inventory.
You know, several years ago when the Carl Walker Company sent a person here, I believe his name was Clark Forrester. Nice man. He worked with us for weeks, if not months, to help us come up with a parking plan. And the one thing he said that I think I'll never forget is there is no such thing as free parking. Somebody has to pay for it. So I haven't forgotten that, because I have a lot of people in my ward who don't own cars. So, you know, why are they paying taxes or rent to finance a public service that they'll never use? You know, I have a little old ladies who live in my neighborhood, 80 years old. They don't drive anymore. They don't have any need for parking, and yet they pay for it. So I think the other thing that Mr. Forrester said was that why not make the users of parking pay for it? And that's the whole principle we're looking at here, is people who use parking should pay for it, not people who don't use parking. So that stuck with me, and I haven't forgotten it. And for that reason, I'm very much in favor of parking. Every other community around us has adopted paid parking, and I just think it's time for Plattsburgh to catch up.
I agree with Mike that paid parking is something that obviously we need. I mean, we've been, as you said, Mayor, working towards this for a really long time. And inherently, I agree with the structure overall. But I do think that for downtown residents and downtown employees, we should be looking at some kind of, not necessarily free pass, but something more reduced. I don't know what that solution is, but I do think that that's something, you know, when I lived in a city that had a ton of parking, there were residential permits that were not this expensive, you know, nothing near that. So I think we need to revisit that portion of it for residents and employees specifically.
To the end of the employees and the employers, what I would suggest is we have a business downtown, myself and my wife and our family, we have a business downtown as well. And for that, in the need of it, we're not gonna, you can do however you want. I'll just tell you how we're doing it. We're paying for theirs. However, you can also just say you'll pay a portion of your employees. That way you don't have to come out of pocket the whole $10,000. It'll give you much needed relief and them as well. So it's buying for you as an employer and say, oh, they really care, so on and so forth. But, you know, the whole entire case with the council regarding, you know, the employers and the employees working and paying and all this other stuff. It's a necessity. If they drive, they're gonna have to park, and it's at the discretion of their employers how much they want to help their employees. So it shouldn't be on us as a city to make the decision for employers. They should be good employers and pay a good amount, if not the whole price, for their employees parking. So that's all I have to say about that.
Is the purchase of the kiosks or any component of parking bonded?
No, we paid that out of pocket.
Oh,
Thank you, Jeff Moore.
Well, I don't disagree with what Jamie's saying either, but I'm just thinking that, you know, the point has been raised about businesses trying to bounce back from COVID, the current inflation situation, the current gas situation. And maybe there's a way that we could ease into it, you know, kind of like what we're doing with the beach parking. Maybe this year we offer a 50% discount to city residents and employees and move towards the full cost. I don't know, but I do think we need to be cognizant of the economic crunch right now. I mean, I'm feeling it, like it's brutal, you know what I mean? So I think we really need to be aware of that and support our residents and our businesses. So I'd like to see this pulled and revisited personally. I can't give it a yes tonight because of those concerns.
Well, these fees were predicated on the thought that we were going to at least break even on parking, if not make a little revenue from it. So what that means, if we're going to reduce the parking fees for annual permits and people who live downtown, we're going to charge everybody else more. So the hourly parking fee could go to $2 an hour. But that's the decision we have to make, and then we have to live with. Is that a hardship for more people to pay an extra dollar? I don't know.
Well, I think just like with the beach, where we're kind of dealing with the possibility of having that deficit this year, I think that's why I'm saying this year, while we try to achieve, while we try to support our residents and businesses in achieving financial stability and success, I just think we have to really think about this because, and as Jeff said, many people have reached out to him. People have reached out to Elizabeth, Jen. We're getting that message clearly from our people, and it's our job to represent them as much as it's also our job to manage the city appropriately. So I think we have to look at it further. I just do.
So now, a week ago, we asked Matt to go back and rework his spreadsheet, and he came up with some different fees for us. Or is that what you're saying we need to do this time?
He did that for the beach for us.
For the beach,
That was
yes.
great. And like I said, I am overall in favor of the general fee structure, but for this year, I think we need to give some kind of break to residents and employees, just like everybody else has basically said.
I want to give some credit to Mr. Miller, though. A year ago, we sat down and you showed me the in-depth 4-year work that you've done on this. And that binder's this thick. And I went through it in 2 weeks. I came up here, not every day, but I came often so that we can get to where we are today. And I'm telling you right now, we're not in the business of, and we will never please everybody. But if we want to reduce the amount of debt we have on hand, like Sue brought up, this is one way that we reduce our debt. So we have to have a balance here, and we have a lot of money that's about to be footed out for infrastructure that was just had a lot of different decisions, like where we are right now. oh, no, let's not do this now, let's not do this now. And now here we are with all these leaks everywhere because it was put off for several administrations and several years. This is a step in the right direction to not just productivity, but to profit the city. So we need to get off our hands and make a decision here tonight.
I think if some reductions are made, maybe more permits would get sold. So that's something we need to think about too.
Further discussion?
Well, one more thing, Mayor, you and I talked about this a while back, and you said if a person drives into downtown and parks at 2 o'clock, then he or she's off the hook for till 8 o'clock the next morning.
Till 10 o'clock the next morning.
10 o'clock the next, thank you. So, you know, for a person who works downtown and works in the evenings, as many people do in restaurants and things, then they're gonna be okay. You know, they're gonna be fine. If you work, say at Warren Tire and you work in the day, we don't charge for parking on Oak Street. You can park there all day if you want to. And that's right around the corner from your place of business. You can go down the hill and there's some unused property there you can park on if you want to, and then walk back up the hill behind the middle school. But there are plenty of solutions for people who simply can't pay. You can walk right across the bridge and there's a ton of parking in what we used to call a parking lot to nowhere. There's tons of parking there. And some of our county employees who park in city lots have free parking over here on Oak Street. So there's plenty of options for people. You know, if you choose not to participate in this, it's possible to do it. So I would think, you know, we're not leaving people out in the cold here. They have options.
Again, we have to consider those with disabilities.
Yes, I agree with you there. We do.
If it certainly pleases the council, we can withdraw the item. You know, we've had 2-3 weeks to work through some things. Push it on to the mid-June agenda, work through it in the February finance CDO meeting, and then bring it back.
I would support that.
I would too.
I'll take a motion to withdraw. Motion by Councilor Gabe, second, Councilor Bott. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item is withdrawn.
Item 7.106, authorized budget adjustment, police department insurance deductible.
Motion, Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bott. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gitt?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.107, authorize the withdrawal of the parcel from taxation and authorize the city chamberlain as tax enforcement officer of the city to deliver a certificate of prospective cancellation for the parcel to both the city assessor and the county director of real property services in order to receive an exemption from taxation ad valorem levies and special assessments for the parcel 15 county.
Motion, Councilor Gibb, second by Councilor Bott. Discussion.
So we had a pretty hearty debate about this at the finance meeting last week. So for clarity, if we move for foreclosure on the property, what happens then? So if we don't move through with this resolution, if we move for,
For the past at least 2 years, we have not included it on the foreclosure petition because of the risk that we described last Thursday, which is if the city were to foreclose, it would take title. It's unlikely it would be sold at public auction. As title owner, it would then be the city's responsibility / taxpayer's responsibility to demo, dispose of, and remedy the property.
do we know how much it would? I guess we don't really know how much it would
Estimates
cost.
from Several years ago, $200,000 plus.
To demolition of the building?
That one's close. Don't hold me to that. It's been a while. That number's probably set.
I think it's key to remind council and everybody else who wasn't at that meeting that foreclosing on the property is distinct and mutually exclusive from this item here. This item here is essentially saying, we don't want city taxpayer to have to pay the balance and the tax obligation to this other taxing jurisdictions that are required for the city to make whole when building owners don't pay their taxes. That's essentially the city's responsibility to do that. We've got to pay taxes to the other taxing jurisdictions for the properties.
How much a year is that? Do you know? I know we talked, I think we talked about this last week.
2,000 and change,
How much?
2,000 and change.
How
Okay,
much
so
is it?
if-
Richard, do you have that?
accumulated taxes are right now 41,000.
Okay, so we've
back
had-
taxes, you mean?
Yeah, we'll
Back
have to pay
taxes.
those anyway.
Well, we have been paying.
So we've been paying and so if we went through this, takes it off the tax roll and it just sits as a vacant property, not accruing taxes anymore.
Correct.
And still no outcome for that property, isn't that correct?
Yeah, we are a bit, we're a ways off for finding an actual solution to either remediating and tearing this property down, which essentially is gonna have to happen. The question is who pays for it?
So it's
That's the
been,
question.
it's been damaged since 2014,
14,
so almost 10 years.
yeah, and it's been taken off the foreclosure list since 2016, for the last 7 years.
You know, we debated this so heavily last week and I just, it's a tough decision for any of us to make. Removing it, I understand the reason for it completely. Removing it and letting it sit there, if it's been in this shape for this long, that property owner clearly, and this is tragic, and I'm sad to see that it came to this. Clearly, this property owner has wanted the city to solve its problem for almost 10 years. But I cannot stand the idea of this parcel of property remaining dangerous and eyesore, and it will stay that way indefinitely. I can't vote for this for that reason. I understand that we would, if we were going to actually move to do something to it, it costs taxpayers, it's going to cost one way or another. I can't vote for this tonight. I understand, I totally appreciate why you did this and I understand, but for that reason, I'm not going to vote yes on this.
My concern with this is, you mentioned that it's not, that this can exist in combination with foreclosure, like that this doesn't mean, but it's in here, the language says that we're not going to go forward with that. So it does say that. And I agree with Elizabeth that it may come down to the city having to pay for this. It might come down to taxpayer money, but it is critical that it happen and it has to happen soon. It can't be another 5 years. And I'm okay with removing the taxes, but as I said last time, I really don't want to see this be the end of this discussion.
Yeah, well, the city does owe a livable house in the city. If the road is really bad and there's lots of potholes or whatever, we fix it. Not everybody uses that street. There's streets in the city that I don't ever drive on. But my money will go and fix that because that street needs to be fixed for the people that do use it. And the people that do live on this street, this is shameful for us to have let this go for 9 years. We could have already been, not blaming anyone that's here, but we would have, if that was back on the tax rolls, we would be whole now and we'd be moving forward. At some point, we have to be the adults in the room and say, yeah, we got done over on this one. And throwing those people that live on the street under the bus is not the way to do it. I really believe that we need to, at some point before this, no one else is gonna do it. It's gonna be the city. If we get a grant for it, great, that would be fine, but we really need to move on from this. And to echo what something the mayor said last time, we need to have the proper laws on the books that will not allow this to happen. We've had burned out buildings in the past. I can think of one right on, might be Court Street, the big yellow house.
Yeah.
They did the right thing, they tore it down, there was an open basement there that somebody could fall in. They did the right thing, they filled it in.
Oh, I remember that.
And now it's a lot again.
Yep.
And hopefully someone will use, but we really owe it to the city to clean this up.
Love to see it, this council be the one to take action on this property.
Mayor, has the city had any discussions yet with any funding source that could help us with this?
Yeah. Last year, we did engage in a conversation with the Plattsburgh Housing Authority about actionable things that we can take that are actionable for this property. A lot of it is remediation and returning it back to the tax roll or having some additional funding for remediating, rebuilding a structure and then returning it back. A little premature then, mostly because the program for that type of project was not funded. Going back into the governor's budget this year, that program is funded again. Conversations we're having next week with Barton and Legis on finding opportunities and grant funding for this, along with Matt Miller and the folks from PHA. I did also invite Councilor Bob and Councilor Moore to that discussion so that they can also be part of this conversation to figure what is the pathway forward using that program to restore that property back to some type of taxable status.
Thank you.
Now, again, we go down that route's a dead end, or it's not feasible route, then we come back to the table, we talk about dumping however many hundreds of $1,000s of taxpayer money into removing the building. So, which worst case scenario, not the ideal situation, but I don't, like I said last time, I can't argue that that's not the path forward at this point, considering property's been sitting there for how long, and it seems like no matter how many conversations we have with the people involved, it doesn't quite come to anything, but that building's still sitting there, so. Any further discussion?
So are we gonna pursue the owner of this in any regard?
Well, the owner is an LLC with no tangible assets as we can tell. So
So just for some context, there have been multiple proceedings against the owner, which against an LLC, there's been $40,000 to $50,000 in civil judgments imposed against them, enforcement actions. We've it's been Groundhog Day, I suppose, with that with enforcement action. And each time has resulted in a significant judgment. But
So essentially, we've had a bunch of judgments against a shell company.
yes. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
No.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
No,
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
No,
That's 3 no's. and
Yes, in the
Yeses.
positive, please.
Item 7.108, authorizing revising capital project H5110.82, 2021 street resurfacing 3.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bob, discussion.
so this capital project says that there's going to be touring routes money to reimburse, is that correct? For this one?
Typically, we do touring routes to reimbursement, correct? So we'll pay and then get reimbursed.
So
They'll cut us a check.
is there a touring routes agreement already in place?
Yeah, it's already funded. It's already a program that's funded for the city of Plattsburgh. That is essentially, it's a bank account that sits in the state. We send in reimbursement slips and they send money back to us. No different than CHIPS, no different than EWR, Paid New York. Same type of program, same program administration, similar program constraints.
So I understand that part, but this particular item, we're using this capital, we're creating a capital project for this Market Street preliminary and final design, but we're going to turn around and pay CNS Engineering,
Pardon?
right? Isn't that what we're doing with this?
We're revising an existing
Right.
capital project, funding it with touring routes and paying for the study that's been approved.
Right, so when I went to do some research on touring routes, I guess I just didn't understand how paying CNS Engineering would fall underneath a qualifying component of that. That's part I didn't understand.
Design is an allowable portion, just like CHIPS funding. We could use CHIPS funding for the EWRS, but one of the things you can't do with, with flooring roofs is buy equipment, which you can do with CHIPS funding.
What is EWRS? What is that?
Extreme weather.
Extreme weather.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.109, award of preliminary and final design phase for the Market Street reconstruction project.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second, Counselor Bob, discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.110, authorize various travel requests, police department.
Motion. Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Canales, discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Item 7.111, authorize park mobile service agreement for mobile parking payments.
Motion. Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Canales, discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
No need to go into executive session. I will take a motion to waive Rule 4. Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now take a motion to consider resolution 7.112, establishing capital project H8320.83 2022 water system improvements to. Motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Gibbs. On this discussion, over the weekend, I'll back up. 2005,
Yeah.
the city of Plattsburgh inherited, gratefully inherited, a large parcel of land from the then shuttered Plattsburgh Air Force Base. Appreciated it, loved it, more housing, more developable property. It did come with some structures which, were there. Along with that came the inherited infrastructure designed and installed by the Plattsburgh Air Force Base. At the time, the material used is what's called an asbestos cement pipe. Most people hear asbestos and they're like, don't drink water out of that. It's fine if you swallow it. It's not fine if you inhale it. The asbestos cement, it's cement with asbestos fibers, and there's other materials in there like a calcium binder in there as well. So over the years, as the water table rises and lowers, the outside of this asbestos cement pipe degrades, and calcium is leached both from the inside of the pipe by the water as well as the outside of the pipe by the water. So over time, the calcium binder and the cement product and the asbestos cement product degrades to a point where high pressure in the pipes will cause a complete pipe blowout, where sometimes you might see pipes fracture or crack. This is a complete explosion of the pipe, depending on where the stability or the bindingness of that material is. Since 2005, there have been 80 water main breaks in that area. When our friend Andrew joined the team, he started tracking year over year how many breaks we had. In 2016, we had 19 water main breaks in that area. Several 5s and 1s and 2s and 1s throughout between then and now until this weekend, when we had 12 water main breaks between Friday night and Sunday morning-ish, around there. So first and foremost, these guys here were up hour upon hour upon hour. I was getting phone calls every 2 hours, well into the morning on Saturday, Sunday, Saturday afternoon, just getting updates. I went out there to tour about what they were doing. Please go out there. Okay, please just go out and drive around Lake Country Village and see what has happened. The fine folks at Lake Country Village, I will say, heard nothing but praises and accolades for the work that they've done. When I went out there, we were stopped a couple times, just thank you for being out here. We know this is hard work. It's not ideal, but thank you for being there. So I do want to acknowledge and appreciate you all for the work that you all did. Coordinated with not only our own crews, but we had to bring in other crews to help do the work too. That being said, there is for lack of a better term, a complete catastrophic system failure of our water system in Lake Country Village and in that area. I believe houses are still strung together.
We had 4 houses that were still hooked house to house.
Yep.
We actually were able to get those off this morning.
Right.
Hoping that stays that way.
Okay, so complete catastrophic failure of the water system in Lake Country Village. It can't, could be as dramatic as you want to be about it, but that's what happened. That's what's happening there. Some of these folks have been on emergency water since Friday night, Saturday. It is now Thursday.
What does that mean on emergency water? What does that mean?
House to house, rerouted around the normal
water.
housing system.
Just as the mayor said, if we have a leg of pipe that is out, if we have the ability to get someone water, we look at the backdoor neighbor or the backyard neighbor's house to give them water, to keep them having water so they can flush the toilets and, wash their hands off or whatever. Is it drinkable water? No, it needs to be tested. Pass the boil water, has a boil water test, but we try to keep people so they have something to be able to function. Take a shower, work day. But there were people, like, 24 hours without water. At least, yeah, one residents without water for 24 hours. I think all of Maryland, a good portion of Maine. We did get Kansas back over there.
So the item in front of you right now, it's shared a very comprehensive outline that Andrew provided to my office and
Yes,
that
it
we
was.
talked
Thank you.
about, which was
Thank you. Very
front
well
to
done.
back. Everything that you would ever want to know about this area
Very
is
thorough.
included in that, right? So again,
Take a minute to, I think the mayor included. There's a study from 2016. I don't want anyone to think that that's sitting around idly, not trying to get ahead of this. It was the 2016 Polaris study, which we had done after we had that year. That, if you take the time to read that, it gives you a good idea of what we're really dealing with there. Obviously, the high points really well. The pipe is just, it's probably 20 years beyond its national life. It's 7 years old. It's really tired. I cannot take the stress that it's being put under. But that will give you an idea. So we've been looking at this, we've been working, we've been replacing pipe. We just did a job today. Matter of fact, the road is kind of coincidental. We received bids today for it, and it's 3,200 feet of asbestos cement pipe. That's actually not included in what this spending resolution, as a separate spending resolution had already been voted on prior. We did Lower Maine, we did Ohio, cut through the US Ave, Fort Brown. So we've been working on this stuff. It's just that the sheer scope of it is too much to bite off all at one time, but now it's time to do something.
and unfortunately, we have to do it all at once, which ideally we would have been chipping away at it, just like we would normally have been on a system like this, but we just can't risk it. We just can't risk another one of these, this year, next year, it don't matter. We just cannot risk it. So the item in front of you that's being introduced tonight, capital project H8320.83 is a full AAC system replacement in Lake Country Village. The neighborhood right across the street from US Avenue, Route 9 going out towards Clarence Carl's, which includes Tall Pines. Pine Harbor's on a different, no, Pine Harbor, Lake Horse is on a different system. And then there's a number of other houses in that, smaller houses in that area. And it also includes Fort Brown Drive. Okay. The reason why it includes Fort Brown Drive is because they're on the same asbestos cement system. Although not as emergent as say Lake Country Village, which is why it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It's kind of listed in emergency status and urgency to get these things replaced. Along with the information that was provided was a worst case scenario funding for this, which includes a IIC charge increase per user or per user type based on, if you recall some time ago, the IIC charge is based on the size pipe that is servicing your property. The majority of those charged are homeowners who pay, who would end up having an increase of about $4.25, 35 cents, around there, right? Essentially it'd be around $42 a year increase to cover the debt of cover the worst case scenario debt of borrowing $10 million against the water fund. Okay. And again, when we talk about borrowing, this is a water bond, which is borrowed against the water fund. This is not a bond borrowed against the general fund. So it's the debt payment is paid for by the ratepayers, or the users of that system. Just so happens to be everybody in the city of Plattsburgh, including large scale industry that use the 6-inch water pipe that's servicing that building. So it's paid for by everybody who uses water in the city.
What are the chances of us finding someone this year to do that work?
So we've had bids out for New York Road. Several of those people have responded with bids to do New York Road. We are of the understanding that we can go back to those folks and say, hey, look, while you're doing New York Road, we have an expanded project. Either the person who bid successfully on it or the 3 or 4 others that bid for that project as a whole can also pitch in to complete this work. Essentially, we have people that are, you laughing at me? No. You should be. I think if I'm, okay, let me take a pause on this. I hope if I'm saying something wrong, y'all are gonna correct me. Okay. So when we bid out New York Road, there were several contractors that bid for that project. Maybe didn't win the bid, but they are available to do the work for the bid. So that's the approach of leveraging that process to pull in those.
I would only add one thing, and everyone in this room has experienced it, it's supply chain issues. A good portion of what's been going on with these failures and why Mayor and I don't know how many times we texted and spoke. One of the, not only when we have the limit of our resources, manpower, equipment wise, when we had coffee, but also at the limit of materials available to fix the breaks we had. And material right now is very difficult to get. We are actively chasing, is this pipe available? Can we get it? And that will be a determining factor in how quickly, I think more so than finding a contractor, is making sure you can get the materials on time. We're just gonna have to do our very best with it.
So, Mayor, in your email to us, you said that you had reached out to the various resources and have they responded to your request for help?
Nothing yet, which is not abnormal. It's not personal either. Well, I hope it's not personal. Yeah, I hope.
The laughing over here doesn't really give you a lot of confidence.
No, I know. Me.
Sorry, you get a little bit
We still have not fully recovered.
No, but I'm looking at the bad children at the table here.
At the point that, I'm from Washington DC and I'm here to help.
I just want to say it's an election year.
But no, the point is yes.
They
these-
better produce. Did I say that clear
Yeah,
enough?
No, I think that's fair. They have been reached out. I know that I've copied these guys on those messages and some of my personal state contacts I've contacted as well. We're getting support, maybe not in the form of, hey, we're gonna come down and write you a check right now, but we are getting responses back. And we'll just keep pressing because this is pretty urgent, especially when we look at the agency and the level of government that we inherited this from, that potentially they have a lot of money that they can help with this.
Yes, and again, I'm not in direct contact with these offices, but for some of the people who represent us, we are the largest municipality that they represent.
Yep.
This is an absolute emergency.
Yep.
And I was also in contact with some individuals who told me that there is infrastructure money out there for grants. So can you keep us updated?
No,
as you get more information?
And just to be clear, whenever I get new information, I do share it, and I have done that throughout the weekend, and making sure that people are up to date with what's happening. And again, I do want to keep sharing accurate information. So
can I ask another question?
One set on this, in addition to the rate update, it's also funded through a surplus that's already generated by that IIC, right? So there's a $270,000 surplus that's generated by that charge. This offsets the increase to the IIC charge, offsets that to match the bond payment.
And I'm glad to see that, but I hate to see that be the funding source. I would really hope we get some federal monies to help us so that our homeowners are not saddled with the increase. My question is, with all of this in mind, with supply chain slowdowns, you're looking for contractors. How long can the residents out there continue to function with this kind of like cobbled together water and sewer?
It's fully functional currently. The inconvenience comes in, obviously, I'm hoping that we've got stabilized. What happens, you'll have a break, and typically, they usually come in about 3. Well, instead of coming in 3, out in that area, they came in 9, 12, but 9. There's no rhyme, this again, by inheriting it, we're learning a lot about what they did right and what they didn't do right when they installed this pipe. We're finding, because we don't know, we're finding things in the ground the military left behind, high temp hot water lines, big heavy duct things. Pipe is not laid in conventional manners out there. So it's very, very difficult to deal with. So what we struggle with, and what we believe is not only we pipe, but bleeding air back out of the lines as we refill correctly so they don't blow up again. We're gonna have to limp along. That's what we're gonna have to do until this gets repaired. And make sure that we have the necessary materials on hand, which we've been really good about tracking them down. Making sure that we keep our physical assets, our labor force ready to perform this work. It could be as some of the other activities that we scheduled for this year, whether it be road resurface. We're supposed to resurface 3 roads out there next week, push it another week. We're ready to pave. We might be pushing it off a while, so we're just gonna have to watch this.
And you're right, obviously this is not an ideal situation. This is, again, the funding model, the amount borrowed, projected to borrow, the amount the IIC increase is the worst case scenario. Typically, we do see funds, we do see monies come into the city, especially in instances like this where there's an emergency. We would expect to see some funds come into the city. But again, this is setting us up to start this work tomorrow, which is what we need to do. So, any further discussion?
How bad could they get? I know some people I bet were like concerned about sinkholes possibly.
I don't know, did you all see anything like that out there?
Not in the roadways, but when you have a catastrophic failure, you're flowing an extra 1 million to 2 million gallons a day in someone's front yard, yes. there's people.
And if you look at the packet that the mayor included, you can get
Yeah.
upwards of some of the pictures in that pack. I wish I got more pictures when the holes were open and not after we backfilled them. You could get holes upward of 30-foot diameter out there.
Oh, yeah, I've been by them.
Yeah.
The bus goes right by them. every
They get
day.
pretty big with the running sand condition out there.
We've been, actively working since Tuesday morning, getting things back, cleaned up, filled up, the roadways are swept. It's, it looks pretty normal out there now. I mean, there's some driveways that we're gonna have to replace, some front yards we're gonna have to rework. And we've done this before. This is nothing new. People out there have been very patient with us, I should say. No one likes it when their front yard, this is the time of year things are greening up and my grass is looking great and everything else. Next thing I know, I got a sandbox out here. And I'm missing half my driveway.
I know about 3 people that live on Main and yeah, I've been hearing about it online.
They've been extremely patient, but the goal is to make everything safe, try to make the system as reliable as possible until we can get a contractor or contractors in, perform this work, and keep working at it. Stay diligent.
Thank you for all your efforts.
Thanks, guys.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canals?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dick?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried. Any new business? Any new business come for council?
Yeah, I was wondering, in the public comment section, we typically don't go back and forth with people, but Julie has, brought some serious concerns. Just, we did agree as a council that we would invest in improvements down in the farmer's market. When are those going
And
to
I
be
think that
done?
those are under a contract for design, correct?
AED is under contract with design. I spoke to them 2 weeks ago and asked them to segment the series of improvements into the first few critical ones, the ventilation issues and the roof leaks, to get them addressed as quickly as possible, with the remaining items to be addressed per the more cumbersome public bidding process.
So do we have a sense that they're going to get done soon or?
I can't give you a date at this point. We have to get the designs finalized. We have to seek quotes from qualified contractors, and they have to be considered in their existing schedule.
Okay, thank you.
I will now take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I have one more thing I wanted to say.
Yes, please.
I heard that the nurse's contract was ratified today, so I just wanted to say congratulations and hopefully it's, I know for some of them, it's not everything you were hoping for, but I know that keeping their health insurance is something that most of them really wanted. So I want to say congratulations.
Sure.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes. Motion to adjourn, Councilor Moore, second by Councilor Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're now adjourned. It is 6:28. Thanks, folks.
What's that? No, we voted on it. That was 4. Okay, that was good.
But that's